Texas is less likely to go broke than California, and they have fewer stupid rules. Probably. They do have less total regulation, but Texas does have plenty of control-freak politicians, and as a result, your property may be safer in California than Texas. So says Scott Bullock from the Institute for Justice. So why is your property not as safe in Texas?
Well, Texas has some bad laws with regards to private property rights. Civil forfeiture laws are very aggressive and very potent in Texas, where the government can take your property even if you have not been convicted or even arrested for a crime, and then the burden is on the property owner to try to get their property back.
All right, explain civil forfeiture more. The Institute for Justice, your group, made this video about it. So if police arrest you, prosecutors must prove you're guilty before they can put you in jail.
But if police suspect your car was involved in a crime, they can take it, sell it, and in most places, pocket the proceeds to pad their budgets. With civil forfeiture, your property is guilty until you prove it innocent to get it back. And because most state and federal laws allow police and prosecutors to pocket the proceeds, they have a big incentive to pursue profits, not justice. How big? In 1986, the Justice Department's forfeiture fund took in $94 million. Now, it has more than $1 billion. Citizens are seeing cash, cars, and other property taken away for the flimsiest of reasons. Carrying too much cash? Police can accuse you of selling drugs or laundering money and seize it.
Come on, just because you have a lot of cash in the car, they can take your car?
Yes.
And the cash?
They can take the car and the cash and accuse you of either being a drug dealer or laundering money, even if there's no drugs in the car or they have no other reason to suspect you of wrongdoing. And then the burden
How much
shifts.
cash, typically?
It could be what the police officers considers to be an unusually large amount of cash, which could be as small as $900, $1,200, $2,000. And then the burden shifts to the property owner in Texas to try to get their property back. Also in Texas,
and hiring a lawyer to defend yourself would cost you much more than $1,200.
Absolutely. So most people just give up, and because it's a civil proceeding, the government can win by default, and that's the way many of these cases turn out.
You have one client whose truck was lost because he loaned it to somebody else who drove drunk.
That's right, and this happens all the time, where people who are wholly innocent of wrongdoing can still face the loss of their property. Also in Texas, police and prosecutors keep 90% of the proceeds from forfeiture, giving them a very direct and a very perverse incentive to go out and try to take as much property as possible. In
one state, the chief of police bought a margarita maker for his office with the funds. California isn't great on this either. It's not great, but it is better than Texas. In California, police and prosecutors only keep 65%, giving them still certainly a bad and perverse incentive, but not as bad. And at least in California, the burden is on the government to try to prove that you did something wrong, unlike in Texas, where the burden is on the property owner. And the Institute says the best states for protecting property: Maine, North Dakota, Vermont. Let's move on to eminent domain, another property issue. Texas passed, after Kelo took this woman's house, Texas passed a constitutional amendment saying you can't do that. Texas should be good. That's right. Texas does have much better eminent domain law than they originally did. The legislature passed some laws after the wake of Kelo, but they made a bunch of exemptions in the law, including an exemption for the Cowboy Stadium, where the government there took over 100 pieces of property to build the monolith to the Dallas Cowboys. Ironically enough now, California is better about eminent domain, not because of their laws, but because California is broke. And one of the things that the state did in order to try to improve their finances is to abolish redevelopment agencies throughout the state, and those were the main abusers of eminent domain. So this is an instance where the fiscal crisis in California has actually led to something that better protects property owners. By defunding the government bullies, they steal fewer people's property. That's exactly right.